Hi, this is AchieveScale, and I'm Brink Trammell. This short series of videos is my experiment in sharing with clients and colleagues a lightweight approach for scaling programs and organizations without creating a lot of bureaucracy. Last time, we explored convergent information, data collected across the organization that needs to be consolidated along the way. We said there are large amounts of this kind of data, at least in the sense of being comprehensible to an individual, so we need to automate its handling. We said that it's non-uniform, which means we need to tease out the underlying structure to do that automation. And we said no one's particularly interested in producing it, which means we need to make it easy, automate it, and we need to make sure that it's relevant to get buy-in. Today, I'm going to talk about how we transform convergent information to make it useful as it travels up the organization. Using an example from a program I managed a couple of years ago, I'm going to look at just the schedule progress information to show how we aggregated it, pulled it to a central point to work with, how we abstracted it, made it concise and comprehensible, and how we interpreted it, made sure that all the meaningful points always came through. This project wasn't particularly large. The budget was around $7 million over the course of a year. And if you do the math, that turns out to about 30 full-time equivalents. But the work was layered across an existing application development and maintenance portfolio, so there were closer to 100 people in the program. As we discussed in episode 2, program complexity increases exponentially with the number of people involved. This program was a sweeping upgrade to the entire application portfolio in response to a market event. As such, scope requirements came from several different functional groups across the enterprise, each supplying a portion of the funding. These requirements were to be implemented by a technology group that was organized by application platform and didn't align directly with the funding organization structure. Each functional area might have requirements that spanned several implementation subteams, and each implementation subteam might implement features from several different functional areas. To keep funding organizations happy, we had to show progress along functional lines. To keep technology management happy, we had to show it by application team. And of course, executive leadership needed to see it against program phases. So where did we start? The first step was aggregating the data so we could work with it. There was no enterprise scheduling system and no particular uniformity in how project schedules were managed. Some managers created project plans specifically for this program, and others just added tasks to their existing plans. Most were in Microsoft Project. Some were in Excel. For this project, I made sure that all were in one of those two, but other formats would have been acceptable if they were common enough. I also made sure that project managers kept master copies in accessible locations, either on network shared drives or in the enterprise collaboration system, which in this instance was SharePoint. Once that was done, I was able to write scripts to collect the data from sources across all the subprograms. I used Excel scripting for this, which was easy since all the documents were in Microsoft formats. But I did something similar in a later project using Google Apps Script, which was actually easier in an enterprise that uses Google Drive for collaboration. It's important to point out that the scripts didn't just move the files. They opened each file, extracted the data, made it uniform, and then added it to a central repository. In this case, I used Excel for that repository as well because it was simple and fast, and the pivot tables gave me lots of flexibility. But any OLAP-capable data structure will work. As a rule of thumb, I would hesitate to use Excel for a project of more than around $50 million because the volume of data will tend to bog it down. Below that, it's really just a matter of how many people need ad hoc access. Once we had the information in a central repository, we had to abstract it to make it understandable for consumers up the organization chain who might only spend 1 hour a week thinking about this program. I had the project managers add 2 pieces of information to their schedules for each of the key tasks. One was an indicator of where the task fit into the overall program, and one was an index of the task's value relative to the specific subproject it belonged to. This information, once aggregated and combined with data that I maintained myself, like overall program structure and functional and technical reporting hierarchies, made it possible to show schedule progress and variance across multiple levels and dimensions at any time. We used custom graphic representations for weekly reporting and OLAP tools for ad hoc reporting. If this sounds like I've asked the project managers for a lot, keep in mind it was a one-time setup. After that, they just had to mark when things got finished or let me know when the schedule changed. This was also an ideal opportunity to promote best practices in schedule development. Flexible ad hoc reporting and cool graphical displays are nice, but in most large organizations, senior executives don't have the time or the skills to run the reports, much less to figure out what they mean. They need interpreted information, not raw data. having the abstracted information available makes it a pretty straightforward process for someone to look at current events or variances and then track down the sources and work with the subteams to come up with a voiceover that concisely captures the reasons, implications, and alternative responses. Aside from designing and implementing the management architecture I've been describing, this was a key component of my role on this program. So that's a quick overview of how we approached one type of convergent information. In the next episode, we'll look at the skills needed to accomplish this, as well as the implications for organizations that already use enterprise management systems or that use agile techniques like Scrum. If you'd like to talk about schedules or automation or anything else related to convergent information, please feel free to start a conversation at AchieveScale.com. And thanks for watching.